Hey everyone, this is Chris and Sandy Benton with the Chris and Sandy Show. We get up close and personal with some amazing guests throughout the entertainment industry. And today, like I say on every episode, we got a great one for you. Who do we have?
We have Terry Fator with us today. He is among the world's most gifted and accomplished ventriloquists, but his talents go far beyond that unique skill. He is also a first-rate comedian, as well as a world-class singer and mimic, able to perform in more than 200 unique celebrity voices. And you may also remember that he was the winner of America's Got Talent Season 2.
And we're excited to have him on the show. So welcome to the show.
Yes, welcome.
What a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
It's definitely our pleasure. I always like to start the same way because the last 18, 20 months or so has been rough for the entertainment industry. And so how has COVID affected what you do? And what have you done through this time to kind of maneuver through it?
Well, I mean, obviously it was incredibly difficult for all of us entertainers. We were one of the last, the last of the people that they allowed to open, especially like here in Vegas. I mean, we went
first to go down.
Well, first to go down. They closed us down in mid-March, early to mid-March of 2020, and I did not get back on stage until mid-March 2021. So a full year of no income and not being able to actually perform, which I tell you, for an entertainer, that's rough. So what I did was I didn't realize how little time off I'd actually had in the 20 years or 25 years since I had started doing this professionally. I mean, I worked all the time. So for the first maybe 2 weeks or a month, I was kind of like, wow, this is, because it was supposed to be 2 weeks to flatten the curve. Remember that? Remember those days?
Right. 2 weeks.
When they told us that. And after,
yes,
oh my gosh. So for the first 2 weeks or a month, I'm thinking, well, this is kind of nice. We'll be getting up soon. And then as it began to drag along, I began to get very, very restless and very, I wasn't happy with just sitting around and watching TV and playing video games with my wife. So I decided I was going to start doing some things. And the fun thing about it was that up until COVID happened, I would put out regular videos, but when I would do it, I would record them and then I would hand them off to a team that I would pay, and the team would do all the editing and do everything. And suddenly I didn't have cash flow coming in. So I couldn't hire a team anymore. So I said, well, I'm just going to delve in and learn how to do it myself. So I started, and it's really funny if you watch like some of my older videos, the quality is really bad because I hadn't really learned how to use all this stuff, but I was doing it for fun and I was doing it just to kind of keep my chops up. And then as I learned to use green screens but when I first started, I have a home theater with a 160-inch screen behind me. So what I would do is I would go to YouTube and I would find like a scene that I wanted behind me while I was doing these videos, and I would just be playing it on YouTube behind me. And so once I learned how to use green screens, I was able to get in front of a green screen and then just put it in there. So it was kind of fun.
That's creative though.
It is.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I wanted to start putting out videos. And one of the things is in my shows, I do clips of songs. So I don't usually typically do a full length song. So I'll do, a verse and a chorus and a verse and a chorus, or maybe just a chorus. And I've been doing that for years and years and years, because I think people really, if you're going to go see, especially an impressionist like myself, you don't want to see, 15 songs. You want to see 40 songs. So I learned early on that the more you do, the more fun people are having at that show. So when I was doing that during that year, I did full length versions of the songs. And I got to tell you, it was so much fun. And of course I had puppets doing it. So if you go to my YouTube, it's youtube.com. I think it's official Terry Fator, but I think we're trying to get it to Terry Fator, but just look for Terry Fator, my official Terry Fator YouTube site. And you'll find some of my videos that I was doing back then, and I was having so much fun because I got to do all the full length versions of the songs, and I'm still doing it to this day. I'm doing in fact, this week's release is going to be Butter by BTS, which my turtle.
That's fun.
Winston the turtle, and he thinks BTS stands for best turtle songs, but whatever,
Yeah, I love it.
That's like for us, we launched this show January of 2020, so a couple months before COVID. And original plan was maybe 100 interviews. First year, thought to be a great foundation. And then bam, COVID happens. And I'm sitting there watching everything get shut down. And I told Sandy, this could be a a shining star for us.
Yeah, it was a silver lining.
A little
for
silver
us.
lining
Yeah,
here.
it
And
was.
so we just went all out, and in 2020 we did over 300 interviews that one year alone, and we're over 500 now.
Wow, that's incredible. Wow.
Now, granted, we learned in 2020 that 300 was probably a little much.
Yeah, so we did 200 last year.
Because just in the month of August, we did 44 interviews that one month, and we were double backing some of them, and so, but we wanted that once we went all out, we wanted that first year to really take off.
Yeah, to hit the ground running.
For sure.
But the second year, last year, we did about 200. So we're like, okay, this is more steady.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's still a lot, though. I mean, that's a lot of interviews. But it's, if you guys are like me, I love performing. So typically, very rarely I'll get 2 weeks off. Most of the time I take a week off, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with being like, I can get away for a week. But I got to tell you, man, if I take 2 weeks, typically I'm really jonesing, man. It's like performing for me is like a drug. I don't do drugs. I don't drink much. I drink very socially. I'll have a glass of wine with meal or something, or a martini before a meal or something. But I don't drink very much, and I don't drink it for the buzz. I drink it for the meal. But performing for me is like that's my drug. And so typically after about a week, I'm just like, my wife will tell you, I'm just like, I'm almost get the shakes. I'm just like, I got to get on stage. And luckily we took the first 2 weeks of January off this year, and luckily I didn't get there. Now, unfortunately, I didn't get there because I caught COVID the first week, and my wife and I both got Omicron, and we were laid up for about a week and a half before I had to go back on stage. And so I did not miss it. And I told her, I said, well, the one good thing about, getting sick is that I was shaking because I was sick. I wasn't shaking because I wanted to get on stage.
Yes.
And that's like for us with the show, there are times where we don't have anybody booked for a few days, and I'll get frustrated, and Sandy's like, go book somebody.
Yes. And, he's like that.
And that's like, we go to Nashville quite a bit because we're eventually going to move there. And every time we go there, sometimes we tie it into Kentucky because her mom lives in Kentucky. So we'll spend a week in Nashville and then a week in Kentucky. So like you said, it's like by the time we take those 2 weeks off, and it's like, whoa, I'm ready for a show then.
Yeah. You know how it feels then. It's so great. And just that feeling of knowing that you're interacting and connecting. And of course, what I do, I prefer doing what I do in that I'm right in front of an audience, and I get to get that feedback. And it's really interesting. Even if I'm not feeling well, or I'm tired, whatever, that energy from the audience, I can actually suck that in and use that energy to bolster me when I'm not feeling well. And I'm not alone in that. I think that's very typical for entertainers. I'm not a person, listen, if I'm going to cancel a show, I'm in the hospital. I'm not kidding. That's how it has to be really serious for me to cancel a show, because
there's so many times where I'm like, I'm just not feeling it today at all, but we got a show booked, we get on there, and I'm like just hoping that the guest is feeling it, and then I can feed off that.
Definitely.
Because every now and then you get a guest to where it's tough to pull anything out of them, and if I'm feeling bad that day, it makes it really tough.
I did this one thing where I've always been proud of, I have this vaudevillian, and I know a lot of the audience may not even know what the heck vaudeville is. You should look it up. It's amazing. It's a group of entertainers that used to travel. They would travel all over the United States. And they would get on trains, and they would go from stop to stop to stop, and they would go all over to the small towns. So it was like bringing this incredible entertainment, and it was all sorts of entertainers. It was, jugglers and comedians and ventriloquists and singers and dancers. And it was really interesting, but they were the kind that would literally, in many cases, work themselves to death. I mean, it was like, that's where the show must go on. Was started was with vaudeville, was people saying it doesn't matter how you feel. Houdini had that attitude, and it ended up killing him because he had I believe a ruptured spleen, and he refused to stop performing. So it's that kind of mentality.
Oh, wow.
And I've always been really proud of having that kind of, the show must go on. And so I went on Larry King. This was right after America's Got Talent. And I bragged, and I said, I never cancel shows. I absolutely will not cancel shows. And that Friday, I was literally so sick, I could not get out of bed and I had to cancel the show. Now, we had taped this on a Monday when I was not performing. And so people watched this on that, or maybe it was Saturday. And on that Saturday night, they watched me say I never missed shows and I had to cancel the show that night. So I felt like I was kind of like the Titanic tempting God, to say, I never cancel shows. And God's like, oh, really? We'll see if that's true. And so, but I don't tempt fate. I don't say I never cancel shows. Look, if I'm too sick to get out of bed, I can't do a show, but I can guarantee you that I'm going to have to be really, if I cancel a show from health, the audience needs to know I am absolutely really, really sick. I don't cancel shows lightly at all, ever.
Right.
Love that. Now, when, a lot of people would ask, when did you want to do entertainment? But I like to go deeper than that. When did it click doing what you do could be a career for you? Was it AGT or was it before that?
Oh, Lord, no. It was when I was a kid. In fact, I actually have a newspaper article that I did when I was 10 years old.
Oh, wow.
Where I think it was the Dallas Morning News. It could have been the Time Herald, but I think there was two. Now there's only the Dallas Morning News. The Times Herald went out of business in my teens. But I think it was the Dallas Morning News. And they had interviewed me because I had started doing some ventriloquism shows at 10 years old. And they said, what do you want to do for a living? And I said, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I said, I want to be rich and famous. So apparently that's what I wanted. But I from the time I was 3, my very first memory, I was 2 or 3 years old. And I was standing on a table in front of a bunch of adults at our church. We were in the cafeteria of our church. And I was standing there singing a song, and I'll never forget the happy looks, the laughing, the clapping, and that really made an indelible mark on my psyche. I thought, I like this. This is what I want to do. And so there was never, ever a time when I ever wanted to be anything but an entertainer. In fact, when I went to college, I only went to 1 year of college. I did get an honorary degree from Navarro College in Corsicana, Texas, though.
Oh, wow.
For the arts. Because they're very proud of me. That's where I grew up, was in Corsicana, Texas. But I went to 1 year and I majored in drama and I minored in television radio. So, it was just never, there was never ever in my head, there was never any other choice
never a
career
different
but to
option.
entertain. Never.
I love that. And I love what you said about the being 10, about the story of how you were just sold, because we have a story. We got a 10-year-old. He was 9 then. And you'll hear from him later because we bring him on to ask a few questions. But when he was 9, our very first trip to Nashville, we were in Nashville. That evening. We were our very first night. We're walking down almost to Broadway, and we were in front of Honky Tonk Central. And this person on a drum thing seen Lil Chris and told somebody to give him this drumstick. And don't know why he did that. Why of all the kids
standing intently watching the music because he loves music.
He was given this drumstick. Thought that was pretty cool. Didn't realize what was about to happen. So we walk across the street and we're in front of Dierks Bentley Road. And we're watching the music there. And he's just shaking his head with his drumstick. And the singer on stage there, she looked back and she saw him have a drumstick. So she gets down and says, would you like to play the drums with us for one song? And so she pulls him through the thing, gets him on stage, and he gets to hit the drums for the Summer of '69 song.
The whole song.
Oh.
And the crowd was like cheering.
And that was his first experience in Nashville.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And it's those. I saw an interview with a psychologist, and this person was saying that there is usually in almost every big entertainer. I mean, we're talking Mariah Carey, Michael Jackson, Frank Sinatra, Elvis Presley, all the greats, where there's one indelible moment that imprinted on the soul of an entertainer that was the key reason why they became an entertainer. And that drumstick could very well lead to a career in entertainment. You never know. And my moment was standing there singing on that table in front of those people. And I loved to watch people laugh. I loved to make people laugh. I was always I was voted class clown literally every single year of my schooling. Because I was a kid. I was never a bad kid. I was a cut up. And of course, once I learned ventriloquism, all bets were off.
Wow. I love that. Now, we're talking about a lot of highlights here, a lot of positives. I like to flip the script and go the other way. A lot of people, they see the glory in what you do. but they don't see the grind, the sacrifice, the tears, the struggles that it takes to get to your level and above. And I always want to talk about that because I think sometimes people they sugarcoat this side of it. They, people think if you got the talent, you'll make it. We both know that's not always true. So take a few moments and let's just talk about the sacrifices and struggles you've had to go through to get to where you are today.
That's an interesting question. I was just talking to my wife about, it's so interesting you asked that because I think it was just last night. I was having a conversation with my wife about some of the sacrifices. And I was saying
wow.
that there was a lot of time in my past that I was not able to pay my bills doing as an entertainer. So I would have to go and get odd jobs. And I grew up as a janitor. My parents had a janitorial business. And so me and my brother and my sister worked full time in my parents' janitorial business. And so we would clean buildings, and then we went into house restoration. So we would paint and clean carpets and remodel homes and do all this stuff. And so in many of the times when I wasn't able to find work as an entertainer, I would put out flyers and I would go and paint the outside and inside of people's houses. At one point, I didn't have a place to live, and I had a very good my probably dearest friend in the world. He was an adult. I was a young teenager. And I had been kicked out of my house. That's a different story. My dad was he was a crazy man. If you ever disagreed with him, he kicked you out of the house. So I spent a couple of weeks. I spent a couple of weeks with him, with my very dear friend and his wife, and I remodeled his game room as payment for him letting me sleep on his couch for 2 weeks. So that was just the if you can't make it in the field that you want to make it in, like, the passion, you've obviously got to do things and you've got to make sacrifices and you've got to struggle and try to find ways to pay the bills. My advice though to people is you can't do it for the fame. You can't do it for the accolades. You can't do it for what you may get in the future. You have to do it for your own satisfaction. And what I mean by that is once I kind of came to the point where I realized, I'm probably never going to get rich and famous like I thought when I was 10. I mean, it ended up happening for me, but I'm saying when I turned 40, I kind of had one of those, one of those moments, where I was like, you know what? I highly doubt a 40-year-old ventriloquist is ever going to reach the limelight, So I just started to work on my craft for me. I wanted to be the best for me. I wanted to be the best. And I was, at the time I was performing at schools and, elementary schools, and I was doing some county fair work, and I was actually making enough to make a living and to pay my bills. And it was better than, working as a pizza delivery guy, which is nothing wrong with being a pizza delivery guy. It's just not my passion. I wanted to be an entertainer. And so it was that I really found contentment and satisfaction in my work when I started realizing it's not the goal that is going to make me, it's what's going to make me happy. It's me. It's inside. Happiness is a journey. It's not a destination. So I stopped looking and thinking, oh, one day I'm going to be rich and famous. And I started really reveling in the excitement and fun of the fact that I got to do what I love to do every single day and get a paycheck for it. Wow. So and then all of a sudden America's Got Talent came along out of nowhere and kaboom, everything happened the way I'd always dreamed.
What made you go out for that?
Well, it was interesting. I'd had a lot of people ask me, and I watched the very first season of it, and it was intriguing to me, but I don't think I would have. But when I was doing that very first year in 2006, when the first season of America's Got Talent, I was performing at county fairs all over the country. I mean, I was going from Washington all the way across to New York to Pennsylvania. Then I would go down to Arizona. So I was playing all these fairs all over the country. And people were watching me at these fairs. And at the time, I had finally discovered that I could do impressions and ventriloquism. So I had rewritten my show so that every single puppet did an impression of a singer. And people were just enthralled by this. They were fascinated by this. And unbeknownst to me, people were actually emailing and calling NBC and saying, we saw this ventriloquist at this fair. You have to get him on America's Got Talent. So they actually called me and said, we are getting so many emails and so many phone calls about you. Would you audition? And I said, well, here's my schedule. And they said, you know what? You're going to be in LA when we're doing auditions at the LA Convention Center. I was from Texas. And I said, they said, would you like to come out after your show in LA? And I said, sure. I was doing an elementary school there. And so I finished at about 3 o'clock. I packed my puppets up, went over to the LA Convention Center, did my audition, and wow, the rest is history.
Wow, that's amazing.
So in the process of AGT, when was there a moment when you thought to yourself, wow, this could happen?
No. in a short answer, no. I honestly did not give myself even a shred of chance. I thought I had about as much chance of winning the Powerball lottery as I did of winning America's Got Talent. But that was never my plan. Yeah. My plan was to go in because I was already making a decent living playing fairs and schools. And so my plan was to go in there, do as many good performances as I can, get kicked off like almost every other person on the show. And then I was going to put together a really good promo video that I could send out to schools and fairs and possibly raise even maybe double my price, And at the time I wasn't making a bad living. I was making about, in some places I was making about $1,500 a day, which is a lot of money. Now I had to pay all my own expenses. So I had to get all my hotel room and I pay my flights and my rental cars and all that. But it was a decent living and I was paying all my bills and I was really having a wonderful life. I was working my butt off. I was working about 11 months out of the year. On the road. I was on the road away from home about 11 months in the year, but I was having a great time. So I was just thinking, this is going to make it easier for me to book myself. So the goal was never to win it. And then even to that final episode, I was 100% convinced that the other guy, Cass Haley, was going to win it because he had so much more activity on social media than I did. He had way more than me. I mean, I had something like 10 million views of my opening, and he had like 100 million views on YouTube.
Oh wow!
And I'm thinking, man, this is a bag for him. There's no way. But again, I was not going to be crushed. I was super happy with what I had done. Exactly. And then no one was more stunned when they said my name. I was completely gobsmacked when they said my name. I did not think I would win it, but I was really glad I did.
So after you won and you got your Vegas show, how was that for that year? I mean, what was going through your mind as you're here? It is, you're on stage doing what you love to do, and you're getting paid to do it.
Well, that was a goal that I had set for myself back in like 1987. Have you heard of Danny Gans? Do you know who that is?
I'm not
sure. He was a huge entertainer in Las Vegas for about maybe 20 years. He started at the I think he started the Stratosphere, and then he went to the Rio, and then he moved to the Mirage, and I think he was at the Mirage for like 18 years. Oh, wow. And he really was quite amazing. So I saw that he had signed a multi-million-dollar deal in Vegas in 1987. I read it in the USA Today. I was on the road somewhere with my band. I had a band for about 15 years named Texas the Band. And I was the lead singer. In fact, you can look us up on YouTube. It's hilarious. I had long hair and I wore goofy outfits. And, we were a hair band. I had a world-class mullet. And so anyway, I read in this article that Danny Gans had just signed a multi-million-dollar deal at the Mirage, and boy, that got me. And I said, I want to be a Vegas headliner one day, because the dream is to be able to have your own place to play. You go in, you do your show, and you go home. You sleep in your own bed. Yeah. So it just sounded like such an incredible dream to me to be able to do that. So that became my goal, and I was hoping that my appearance on America's Got Talent would eventually allow me to kind of worm my way in and work my way up into Vegas. And the funny thing is, literally 2 months before I did my very first appearance, and I mean, it was 2 months, my very first appearance on America's Got Talent, I auditioned for a little variety show over at Planet Hollywood, and was completely shut down and turned down. And they said, no, well, Vegas, ventriloquism has never worked in Vegas. And so, they flat out turned me down to be a part of this variety show. And then 2 months later, I win America's Got Talent, or I get on America's Got Talent. A couple of months after that, I win it. And then I become one of the top headliners in Vegas. And I've been there now for 15 years as one of the top headliners in Vegas. And so,
it's like that movie Pretty Woman, when she goes back to the store. Says, you work on commissions?
Yes, I love that.
Big mistake.
Big mistake.
Huge.
And I actually had that person come to my show at the Mirage when I was there. I'm at New York now, but I was at the Mirage for 11 years. And that person came and said, boy, did I make a mistake.
Wow.
Yes.
And it's not that, again, it's not that you want to rub stuff in people's face, but don't it feel good when people don't believe in you? And then all of a sudden you're like, you know what? I'm not giving up. I'm going to keep doing this. I have this belief. I have something, and I know I have something. And then all of a sudden the doors open.
Well, it was the story of my life, because my father was incredibly critical and never, ever gave me any kind of positive feedback. It was always negative, always negative. He was always telling me I wasn't talented. He was always telling me I wasn't going to make it. He was always telling me I wasn't capable. And so that's just what I fought against. And then, of course, I chose ventriloquism as a career. And, people had such a negative view of ventriloquists. And I'm incredibly proud to be one of the ones. And I'm certainly not the one, but there's been many of us, myself, Jeff Dunham, Darcy Lynn, Paul Jordan.
I was going to bring up Darcy.
Jay
What do you think about Darcy?
Oh, she's great. She's a dear friend. She's a dear friend. I worked with her the whole season of America's Got Talent. I had a ball with her. I felt like a proud parent. My wife and I cried. We were there that night because I performed with her when she won. But I'm just really proud to be in that group of ventriloquists that have kind of revived. Back in the 70s and 80s, we had people like Sherry Lewis, and we had Willie Tyler and Lester, and we had Jay Johnson, one of the greatest ventriloquists of all time, Ron Lucas, and then of course Jeff Dunham came along, and myself, and I think we've really, really changed the perception of ventriloquists, that it's not just kid stuff anymore. It's it's something that can entertain the entire family. And myself, I'm the only ventriloquist in history to have a nighttime headlining show on the Strip in Las Vegas for more than a decade. And I tell you, I'm very, very proud of that. So I've absolutely proven that ventriloquism is a valid form of entertainment for an audience that are not just little kids. So
as long as you're good,
that's right. Yeah, that's what I tell people. I'm like, you know what? If you're good and you really work hard, and you make sure your material is quality, and you're putting out world-class talent, you're gonna find an audience, and people are gonna appreciate what you do. So that's absolutely true.
That. And I love that, because I remember when we first started this show, I reached out to a friend of mine from Nashville, and I asked him what advice he'd give us as we launch. And he says, whatever you do, be and stay authentic. He says, you could tell every Bobby Bones joke, you can tell every Ty Bentley joke, because he knew I looked up to those two. He said, you might create an audience doing that. He says, but the day will come when authentic Chris comes out. And when that day comes, you're going to lose your audience, because they were never attracted to authentic Chris. He says, you might grow slower, but you'll grow with the right audience if you just stay authentic.
That's true. And that's absolutely true of my entire season of America's Got Talent. When I was on America's Got Talent, I was noticing that everyone else was trying to portray a character or trying to be someone that they weren't. And, because I got to know a lot of the people, and a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them. And I went in there saying, you know what, this is me. I'm going to be who I am. And if you like me, great. And if you don't, great. I'm fine with it. So I'm not going to try to have a persona or a character. I'm just going to be Terry. Yeah. And really, Johnny Carson, I saw an interview with Johnny Carson, and he talked about that. He said that there are some people that have a likability factor and an it factor. And the ones who are faking it are the ones who are going to come and go. And the ones who are genuine and have that it factor are the ones that have longevity and that people are going to follow, just like you just said. You're absolutely right. They want to see the authentic you and make a connection with you. So.
Yeah, because even with our show, I remember I had on, and of course I've learned to tone the show down. When we first launched, we were doing 90-minute interviews, because I couldn't.
He couldn't rein
in my talking. As you can tell, I love to talk.
Yeah.
But it was way worse.
It's like then he talked too much and I didn't talk enough. We tried to
but I remember we interviewed Jeff Coffey, who used to be in Chicago.
Oh yes, he was the lead of Chicago for a couple of years.
And I went back to his Facebook page after he shared it, and I seen somebody make a comment, and I remember them saying, "I love the interview, but that the host is Wendy. And I was
Yeah.
like, I told Sandy, what does that even mean?
I was like, it must mean long-winded. I mean,
And then I thought about
Yes.
I thought about what my friend Vice told me. I was like, you know what? This is me. I get it. I'm okay with that. That's actually a compliment then.
Yeah.
You know, but I have learned to tone it down some.
Well, we all do. I mean, that's part of growing as an entertainer, you know, and when you're in this
Mhm.
world, you just have to learn, you know, you have to learn to adjust to different things. It's like, you know, depending on what kind of an audience I'm performing for, you know, my show in Vegas is going to be a little bit more on the risque side. It's never dirty, but I tap dance on the line. But if I'm going to be performing where I know
Yeah.
I've got a lot of
Get it?
where I've got a
Mhm.
lot of church people and stuff, I'm going to be squeaky clean, you know. So it's really just
Yeah.
you have to play to your audience. You have to learn what your audience needs and wants. And
Exactly.
Mhm.
Love that. Now, as you know, a lot of people, they see the entertainers like yourself, but they don't see the teams behind them. And in our opinion, teams never get any love. On our show, they get love. So take a few moments and tell us about the team that helps you be who you are.
You mean the team that
Yeah,
I'm
the
working
team.
with?
Yeah.
You know, my main thing is my main thing is that my wife, she's so incredibly important to me. I never really felt, you know, I had two divorces. A lot of people know this. If you just look at my Wikipedia, you'll see I've had two marriages and that's tough to go through. You know, a person
Yeah.
like myself,
Yeah.
especially who is a strong Christian, who feels that divorce is the only a last option. It was
Yeah.
tough.
Yeah.
And then God brought this incredible woman into my life. So she's by far and away the most important person to have somebody that believes in me and that makes me feel loved unconditionally, which I've never had. Not even from my own parents did I
Oh,
feel
wow.
unconditional love.
Mhm.
And so to have that is huge. It helps a lot with my sense of self, my self-confidence. And also I have a writing team of joke writers. The head writer of my team is John Max, who is absolutely probably the top writer on the planet. The guy, he's
Wow.
written, you know, he wrote all the Oscars that Billy Crystal hosted. He wrote the
Oh, wow.
Oscars that Steve
Oh,
Martin
wow.
hosted.
Mhm.
He writes, you know, he writes all the award shows. He's written countless. I mean, if you just IMDb John Max, you'll see. And he's my head writer. And then I have
Wow.
Kevin Sheeney and Michelle Shelton, who also do some writing. And so we get together and we have this really strong writing team that understand the voice of the puppets and the characters. And we have a lot of fun. And we actually like to do writing sessions at Disneyland. So I'll have them all meet me at
That makes
Disneyland, and
sense.
we go in.
Yeah.
Yeah, we go in and have dinner somewhere, and then we'll be going and standing in line to go on rides, and we're writing material, and it's really fun. So it's a very creative atmosphere. And then I've got a couple of people that work with me, my production manager, Randy, and then my personal assistant, Marina, who does much more than just a personal assistant. And, you know, we have a really good camaraderie with us. And one of the wonderful things, and it's certainly not a prerequisite for me, but as a person who follows Christ and a very strong Christian,
Mhm.
it's
Mhm.
wonderful that Randy and Marina and Angie and myself are all strong Christians. So
Wow.
before
Love
every
that.
single show,
Okay.
we get together in a circle and we pray that the Holy Spirit will move through me to the people, and that the Lord will use me through my performance. And we do that before every single performance. And so
Wow.
I just feel like God
Mhm.
uses me to till the hearts of people out there, to make
Yeah.
them more
Yeah.
receptive to God's message. I may not be giving them God's message in my performance, but I think God uses my performance to get their hearts softened and ready to hear His message from another source. So
I love that perspective, because even with our show, there are many times before the show, hour or two, I'll say a little small prayer beforehand,
Mhm.
because I want, I know because we're a live show, I don't edit or anything. I don't know where the show's going to go.
Yeah.
There are sometimes it goes way off the deep end, and I have to kind of reel it back in. I'm like, okay, let's get it back over here,
Yeah.
but I never know where
But
it's
that
going to
makes
go.
it fun
But
too.
and so I have to pray that, for God to lead the show, to touch the people that's going to watch it, and even touch
exactly.
us and the guests, because I
Exactly.
want
And
a show that touches people.
That's right. And God uses everyone in different ways. And so my dad wanted me to be a preacher, a minister, an evangelist. And
And you kind of
I never
are.
felt I am. I didn't feel that calling to be a minister in the way he wanted. I feel like I'm an evangelist of God's joy. And that's where, God wanted me to spread joy and happiness. And he wanted to use me and my talent to bring some, a little relief from people's suffering. And I can't tell you the countless emails, letters, messages, on social media where people say, you got me through my mother's death, my father's death, my wife or my husband, I went through cancer and I watched your videos and that is so incredibly important to be in a position. And now don't get me wrong, I don't have an inflated sense of ego where I think I'm super important. There are much more important jobs than what I do. But I got to tell you, it is important to be one of the ones who is helping to alleviate people's suffering. And I'm a doctor of the
really
heart.
Important because we're in a tough time right now with COVID
so
on it. And right now people need that laughter, that joy. Because when you look at 50-60% of marriages fail out there. And you look at a lot of times people lose their passion, they're losing their joy. And I believe, now granted, I believe that people don't spend enough time together. But even that aside, when people lose that passion, I think they don't laugh anymore together.
No, it's tough. It's really, really tough. So that's God's put me in that position where my job, my entire existence as an entertainer is to lighten people's load and to make people feel a sense of happiness and a sense of joy, if only for a moment. But I think that God can use that to get them into a position to maybe hear a message that he wants to send their way. And if you're in a grieving process, it can be hard to hear that message. And if God sends them to my show and they go out with a lighter heart, then maybe they'll see something or read something, or something will come across that God wants them, and their heart will be more receptive to that. That's just how I feel. And
you're just planting that seed.
Exactly. And I feel this way through because of a huge amount of prayer. And, I'm not just a speaking Christian. I get up every single morning and I get on my knees, literally get on my knees, and I pray and I study the scriptures and I ask God, lead me in this day and help me to be a better person and help me to make this world a better place. So I'm not just one of those that says, I'm a Christian, I go to church, no, I really, it's very real to me. It's very personal and real to me, my faith in Christ. And I don't necessarily feel I have to go and in your face tell you about it, but I just want to do it through my actions and through, and it's so interesting because a lot of people will come up after my show and I don't ever mention God at all. And they'll say, are you a believer? And I'm like, I absolutely am. And they said, I could just tell from, your countenance. And so I love that. I love when people can see that from my, but I also love telling it, I love to say it. So like if I'm doing a question and answer, and occasionally on my shows, I'll do a question and answer and somebody will say something, what's the most important thing in your life? I'll say, Jesus Christ, 100% is the most important thing in my life and always will be. So I'm very proud of it and I love it, but I don't push it on people at all. So.
And you don't have to, because I love what you said. You're really just the seed, because I think sometimes people feel like if you're talking to someone, you have to be the one that changes them. But no, if you allow God to use you to be the seed, if you're okay with just being the seed, God will lead the right people to them. It may not be you, but your seed will help fertilize that.
Yeah, started the
process. Could be a billboard. It could, you see these billboards where there's a scripture verse or something. It could be literally anything. God can use anything. Yes. And he doesn't call all of us to be the same thing. He calls us each to be, and Paul even talked about it in the scriptures. He talked about the fact that, there are several parts of the body and we're all parts of the body of Christ. And therefore he will use us in whatever way. Some of us will be the mouthpiece to give the gospel. Others of us will be the one who plants the seed. And then someone else will till the soil, and then another person will water it. And then hopefully it'll grow into something that'll really be a life-changing event for people.
And see, we get the story out.
Good.
Because Jesus always talked in parables and stories. You know what? I love the story. That's why I launched the show, because I love to get up close and personal. That's why our tagline is up close and personal, because I love people's stories. That's just what I love to do. I love to hear stories. We've had people that are Christians on, people that are not Christians on, people that do stuff that most Christians would be like, oh, no, but you know what? I don't care. I want the story. The story is what matters to me.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. That's exactly right. You know, and I read a book, and I can't remember what book it was. I think it was a book called The Problem of God, which is
Mhm.
which actually sounds like a negative book, but it's not. It's a problem
Yeah.
people have. It's about the
Yeah,
problems people have with
Mhm.
believing in God.
the
I think that's
perception.
the book. It could have been
Uh,
the problem of Jesus. It could have been, but he wrote two books, and his name is Mark something. I can't, for some reason, his name, but they're great books. The Problem of Jesus and The Problem of God. And in it, he says, if people ask me, what do you think Jesus would do if he was, what would his profession be? He was a carpenter back then. And this person said, I believe he would be a movie maker because his whole
oh,
life was telling
yes.
stories.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
I thought, well, that's an interesting thing, because he would want to be telling stories that get into people's hearts and get his message across, you know? And
Exactly.
so that's a really interesting, he'd be a filmmaker. And I thought, well, you know, who knows what he would be, but that's an interesting theory for
That's a
sure.
good logical
That's an
conclusion.
interesting take on that. Yeah.
Because I can definitely see that.
Mhm.
And speaking of teams and all that, we have a third co-host, our little 10-year-old that we allow to come on and
Yes,
ask a few questions.
Christopher.
So Sandy's gonna go get
Okay.
him now. And we've got an almost 3-year-old that when she gets older, she'll be plugged in the show too, because we are a family
Oh,
affair show.
nice. See, that's wonderful. I love that. I love
And you know,
families.
exactly. We know when we first started the show, that was another thing, is I want to do something that honored God, honored family. And I'm not saying, you know, again, we don't always have PG people on the show, and I'm okay with that, because that's not our show's not a Christian based show. It's just a Christian run show. Like I try to tell
Yeah.
people.
Well, you know, that's the thing, is that there are a lot of people in a lot of different professions. There are Christian doctors, and there are Christian
Mm,
lawyers, and I'm a Christian entertainer. I'm not an entertainer to Christians. I'm an
yeah.
entertainer who is a Christian.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
and so if you come to my show in Vegas, there might be a lot of things that you would say, oh my gosh, I can't believe he just said that. You know, I don't ever say anything outright dirty.
Yeah.
Anything I do that's more adult in that way is more of a double entendre. And like I said, I tap dance on the line. But again, I don't have a problem with that, because my job is to till the hearts and to make people feel joy and happiness. And again, I would never do that if I was performing at a church. I would certainly not do that. But I'm a Las Vegas entertainer. People come here. That's, you know, it's, you know, the adult Disneyland here. So I don't have a problem doing something that might be a little bit over what, you know, the squeaky
Yeah.
clean something somebody might doing if I was performing at a church. So, you know, it's just, but it's all, there you are. Hello there.
Hi, Terry. So, what's your favorite food?
What's that?
I said, what's your favorite food?
What's it? I don't understand the
Your
question.
favorite
I'm sorry.
food.
Well, my favorite food. Okay, I see it. My favorite food. My favorite food is chicken pot pie. My wife Angie makes the best chicken pot pie in the world, and you know, she does it different than anybody else. So she makes it from scratch. Like, if she doesn't buy you know, like a crust, she actually rolls the crust out, makes it, and bakes it, and then she makes mashed potatoes and puts.
Oh, wow.
She makes a mountain of mashed potatoes, and then she scoops the chicken pot pie right on top of it. And I'm telling you,
Ah.
it's the best thing in the world. So she always makes it
Wow.
for me on my birthday.
What's yours?
Mine is pizza.
Pizza. Oh man, well, who doesn't love pizza, right? What's your favorite kind of pizza, though? See,
Pepperoni,
what
sausage, and supreme, and pineapple.
He's got like 4 different faves.
oh, where are you guys based out of? Where are you located?
We're located in Savannah, Georgia, but planning on moving end of the year to Nashville.
Okay, that's right. You said Nashville. Well, we have a place here. It's called Grimaldi's Pizza, and they have a thing called the Dawn. It's my favorite pizza. It's got like meatballs. They take meatballs and they slice them, and then they put pepperoni and they put other kinds of meat and sausages. And oh my gosh, it's such good pizza.
Wow.
Okay,
So what other questions you got?
I mean, what's your favorite TV show?
Oh, favorite TV show is Everybody Loves Raymond.
That's a good one.
It is a show that stands up to the test of time. I mean, I like a lot of TV shows, and my wife and I don't watch a lot of modern stuff, mainly because you know, I'm working so much, and so we'll stick on Everybody Loves Raymond as we're going to sleep, and we've seen every episode. But one thing you'll notice about Everybody Loves Raymond is there's not a lot of jokes in it. The humor is very character and situational driven. So almost all the humor comes out of the actual characters, which is my favorite type. Which is exactly like my show. If you come to my ventriloquism show, each character is completely separate and different, and all the humor comes out of the character, not jokes that I'm telling. So it's just my favorite kind of humor. So what's your favorite TV show?
Mine is SpongeBob.
Oh yeah, well, SpongeBob is amazing.
That's crazy how long they've been around and still making new ones.
Ain't it the truth? It's incredible. Yeah, but it's just again, if it's quality and funny, and it's funny and quality, and that's something that people of any age can enjoy. Which is, just like my show. My show is something all ages love. So
Yeah,
it's very hard to do that, but it's a lot of fun.
So he's got one more question.
All right, so what's your
Okay.
favorite movie?
Favorite movie is It's a Wonderful Life with Jimmy Stewart and Donna Reed and
Classic.
Lionel Barrymore. It is. I watch that movie probably 2 to 3 times every single year. I absolutely love it. It is. I think the message in it. I have to constantly remind myself that we're making more of an effect than we realize without even knowing it. We affect every person we come across.
Yeah.
And whether we affect them in a positive or a negative way is our decision. And so that movie kind of reminds me that everything that I do and say throughout my day and throughout my life is going to affect others in ways that I can't possibly know.
Yeah.
And so,
Ripple effect.
I just need to be reminded of that. And I love that it's really not about, and just like George Bailey in it, we may not accomplish what we dreamed of, but if we affect the world in a positive way, and when we leave the world and we go to the next life, whatever that's going to be, then if we can say that we left the world in a better place and left people and made a positive impact on other people, we had a successful life. So regardless of where we are and what we accomplish.
Yeah. What's yours?
Mine is Minions movie.
That's a good movie, actually. That's a fun movie.
They've built a strong brand, I tell you.
I sure have. Yeah. Oh, I love animated movies. And, my wife and I just watched, what's that, Encanto or something? The one that, we watch all the ones on Disney Plus and we watch, I love anything Pixar. I love all the Pixar movies, Up and Ratatouille and Toy Story. And so, but I like everything. I love Marvel movies too. And it's always fun. But lately, my wife and I have been watching the Waltons. If you haven't watched the Waltons, you need to watch the Waltons. It's quite amazing. It's really, really incredible.
Yeah, they are. They're good.
Yes.
Nice to see strong families,
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Bye, thanks.
Bye. That was great. Oh, my goodness. Oh, I see your Minion shirt.
Yep.
Yeah, I love Minions.
Yep. He's been on almost every episode, and he loves it and all that. And
I love it.
And he's wanting to eventually start his own podcast. So we told him maybe summer to the end of the year, we'll create something for him. So we're kind of training him a little bit here.
Yeah.
Get him ready.
Nice.
Get him ready for that.
Nice.
He
Well, those were
loves it so
interesting
much.
questions. I don't know if I've ever been asked those. I don't know if I've ever been asked those questions before. So that was kind of fun.
Awesome.
So I liked it.
So what are some sources of inspiration for you?
I find sources of inspiration from every different venue. I mean, I read 3 to 4 books a week. I love to read. Sometimes I read fiction. Most of the time I read nonfiction. I love to read books on apologetics. I love to read Lee Strobel, and I love to read William Lane Craig, and I love to I love to read books, but I also just love to read biographies. So I love that. I like to get inspiration from movies. I get inspiration from television shows. I get inspiration from music. I really just try to let anything and everything be an inspiration. One thing I do not do is I do not watch the news, and I do not get into politics at all, ever, because it's a losing game regardless of what side. It's kind of like
Same with us.
I enjoy sports. But if you live and die by your whatever sports team it is, you are definitely going to be disappointed most of the time, because there's no way that you can win all the time. You can't. And it's the same thing with politics. If you're a Democrat, you're going to be super happy when the Democrats win, and you're going to be depressed when the Republicans. If you're a Republican, you're going to be super happy when the Republicans are in power, and you're going to be super depressed when so it's like I don't even get involved. My happiness, my joy comes from my relationship with Jesus and my relationship with those around me. And the way I affect other human beings that I interact with, and so that's really what it's all about. You can't. Yeah. I don't watch the news, because all the news wants.
God said, "Love Him and love others."
That's right. That's right. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. The 2 commandments. You do that. You do those 2. You're going to be fine.
Yes, you'll have a great life then. So, what would you like your legacy to be in the entertainment industry? What would you like to be most known and remembered for?
Being kind and being someone that was an inspiration. You know, I feel like that we live on, not through great movies and entertainment. We live on
Mhm.
through who we inspire
Yeah.
to be the
Mhm.
next generation. So, knowing that Darcy Lynn, who is young, she's in her late teens, and knowing that Darcy Lynn was inspired by watching me, and that she is going to become a superstar, and is a superstar, and will
Yeah.
inspire another generation. So another way, I'm inspiring the generation that Darcy Lynn inspires
Yep.
because
Yeah.
I inspired her. So that's the legacy. Is you want to inspire people by what you do, and inspire the next generation, and in that way you're, in a sense, you're immortal on this planet. We're all immortal because we have immortal souls, so we're all going to go to the next life, in some way or fashion. And but I really do want my legacy to be that I was kind, and I was generous, and I was and people remember me as a good man, and
Love
a good
that.
husband,
Yes.
and a good friend.
Hmm. And if you could say anything to your fans and followers, what would you want to tell them?
I just want them to know how much I appreciate them, how wonderful it is. Without the fans, I wouldn't be where I am. I wouldn't be able to perform at venues around the country, and I wouldn't have had a successful show in Vegas for 13 years. I would have it would have been, or 14. Actually, it's now coming up 15 15 years.
Oh, yes.
And
Wow.
wow, it's just so quick. It's amazing how quickly it goes. But the fans are so incredibly important, and I hope that they feel my genuine appreciation. I try to let them feel that when I'm on stage, and when I meet fans around the country, and it happens regularly, where people recognize me and want to get a selfie, or want me to just talk to them. I really do hope that they know how that I'm not. It's not coming from an a disingenuous place. I genuinely appreciate my fans, truly, and I care about them. I really do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you share something with me, that whether it's positive or negative, I want you to know that it really does matter to me. And if someone, I meet fans and they'll say, "Can you pray for my grandmother?" or "Can you pray for my
Wow.
husband?"
Mhm.
I actually put them on my prayer list, and I pray for them. So it's not
Wow.
just, I don't say yes I will and not do it. I actually do get on my knees and pray, for the people that people ask me to pray for. So it's, and that's a way to genuinely care.
Love that.
Yes. Mhm.
So as we start to close out here, where do you want to be in 5 years?
I would love to continue doing what I'm doing, and I would love to really be able to find other venues. I have a heart for autistic and people with Down syndrome, and
Mhm.
and uh,
Mhm.
and different type of thing. I have a lot of friends who have Downs and autistic children, and I really have a heart. And so I'm praying that God will open up a door that will allow me to be able to entertain and minister to the
Oh,
families
wow.
of and people who have Downs and autistic and autism. So.
Love that.
Yes.
So as we close out with the last question here, um, let's say you had a friend of yours and they want, they feel like entertainment is in their blood, like you did. And they're really good at whatever it is that they do, whether it's what you do, whether it's singing, whatever, but they're good at what they do. And they feel called to this, and they're just getting their feet wet. So they're out there performing a few places here and there. What advice would you give that specific person to kind of help guide them the next couple of years?
Never, ever, ever stop working to be better. Never. Doesn't matter how good you get. Never stop working. Don't worry if you never get the big stuff. Don't worry
Yeah.
if you never
Yeah.
become a headliner in Vegas, or you become a movie star, or a famous singer. Doesn't matter. That is irrelevant. And I mean this. It is not going to make you happy. If you're unhappy now, you are going to be unhappy when you get rich and famous, if it happens. You
Yeah.
need to be happy
Yeah.
with yourself, and you need to work on your craft every single day. Your dream will never die. I don't care how old you get, your dream will never die if you are always working on your craft. It doesn't matter what that craft is. Maybe if you want to write, you need to write every single day, because the minute you put that typewriter up, or you put that pen away and stop writing, the dream really does die. The minute you stop
Wow.
working on your vocals, the minute you stop working on your comedy writing or whatever it is, if you stop it, you've just killed the dream. As long as
Yeah.
you're working on it, the
Yeah.
dream is always there. And it may never happen, but you know what? You're going to be so satisfied with what you're doing, and you're going to have such a sense of self-fulfillment because you're becoming the best you can possibly be at something, that you're going to find that those dreams of being rich and famous are really irrelevant to your happiness.
Definitely love that. So, as you know, we're in the internet and social media world. So tell everybody how they can find you.
Oh, everything is Terry Fator. So it's like my TikTok is TikTok was at I don't know how it goes, at or hashtag or whatever, Terry
Yeah.
Fator. I think my YouTube is official Terry Fator, but you can look me up. You can find me. I release things regularly on my social media. I'm going to start doing a lot more TikTok. I finally got my TikTok verified. And so I'm going to be doing a whole lot of different things on TikTok and having a lot of fun with that. So follow me on, Facebook and YouTube. Every single week on Wednesdays, I release a full-length song with one of my puppets on YouTube.
Wow.
And then I release that same song on Facebook on Thursdays. So if you want to get an early release, then go to my YouTube and subscribe.
Love that. And we really enjoyed having you on the show today. And we definitely look forward to having you back down the road.
Oh, thank you. I would love to come back. This was a delight.
Oh, we enjoyed it. Thanks so much for your time today.
You have a great day.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks. You too.